Do Kwon had $40 billion under his control on a Monday. By Friday, it was gone. All of it. $40 billion. Vanished in less than 5 days. And the man responsible? He tweeted a meme about it. While families were losing their life savings. While a crypto investor in South Korea was jumping off a bridge, Do Kwon posted a joke. That's the kind of person this video is about. But here's what most people get wrong about this story. They think these founders were gamblers who got unlucky. They think crypto was risky, and these guys just happened to lose. No, these men knew exactly what they were doing. They engineered systems designed to funnel money from ordinary people into their own pockets. They lied on camera. They fabricated partnerships. They forged audits. And when the house of cards collapsed, they ran. This isn't a story about bad luck. This is a story about theft. Calculated, deliberate, industrial-scale theft. And the victims weren't Wall Street traders, they were teachers, nurses, retirees. A 63-year-old grandmother in Ohio put her entire retirement, $120,000, into a project run by one of these men. She's now working at Walmart. She's 63 years old, standing on her feet for 8 hours a day because a man in a penthouse lied to her. If you think you know these stories, you don't. Not the full versions. Not the parts that got buried by lawyers and NDAs and media cycles that moved on too fast. Every single founder in this video made specific, documented decisions that destroyed real lives. And I'm going to show you each one. We're covering 5 founders, 5 empires, 5 collapses. Between them, they stole over $70 billion. Some are in prison right now, some fled the country. And one, this is the part that should make you furious, is already working on a new project, right now, with new investors, money. Let me tell you who they are. Do Kwon. Terra Luna. $40 billion gone in 120 hours. He fled to Montenegro with a fake passport. Sam Bankman-Fried. FTX. Took $8 billion of customer funds. Used it to buy a penthouse in the Bahamas. Donated millions to politicians. Got caught because his ex-girlfriend testified against him. Alex Mashinsky. Celsius Network. Told customers their money was safe while secretly withdrawing his own $10 million weeks before the platform froze withdrawals for everyone else. Suju and Kyle Davies. 3 Arrows Capital. Borrowed billions they couldn't repay. When creditors came calling, they vanished on a yacht. And Stefan Chin. Virgil Capital. This one's different. He was 24 years old. He ran a $90 million fund. There was no fund. The money didn't exist. He was running a Ponzi scheme from his college apartment. 5 founders. 5 disasters. $70 billion stolen. And not a single one of them thought they'd get caught. Here's the thing most crypto videos won't tell you. These men didn't fail because the market crashed. The market crash just exposed what they'd already done. The fraud was baked in from day one. The crash didn't cause the crime. It revealed it. That distinction matters. Because if you think this was about market conditions, you'll miss the real lesson. These men built bombs and handed them to strangers. The timer was always ticking. The crash just made the explosion visible. Now, if you're the kind of person who actually wants to understand how scams work so you never fall for one, you're already in the right place. This channel breaks down exactly how these schemes operated, step by step. Not the surface-level headlines, the actual mechanics. If that's valuable to you, subscribe now. Because the next 30 minutes are going to change how you look at every financial promise you've ever been sold. Let's start with who these men were before they became billionaires. Because the arrogance didn't start with crypto, it started much, much earlier. Chapter 2. Before they were billionaires. Sam Bankman-Fried grew up in a house with 2 Stanford law professors. His parents weren't just smart, they were connected. His mother ran a political fundraising network. His father consulted for major financial institutions. Sam didn't grow up poor and hustle his way to the top. He grew up surrounded by power. He learned how institutions work. He learned how to talk to regulators. He learned how to perform humility while hoarding control. That childhood gave him a weapon most scammers don't have: credibility by proximity. He went to MIT. He worked at Jane Street Capital, one of the most elite trading firms in the world. When he launched FTX, he didn't stumble into crypto. He brought Wall Street tactics into an unregulated market. That's like bringing a tank to a pillow fight. Everyone in crypto thought he was a genius. He was. Just not the kind they assumed. Do Kwon was different. He grew up in Seoul, South Korea. Stanford computer science degree. He worked at Microsoft and Apple briefly. But what defined Do Kwon wasn't his resume. It was his personality. The man argued with everyone. He publicly mocked critics on Twitter. When a developer questioned Terra's algorithmic stablecoin model, the exact model that would later collapse, Do Kwon called him, quote, a poor person. Not privately, on Twitter. In front of millions. That's not confidence, that's pathology. And it mattered. Because when you're that certain of yourself, you stop listening. When you stop listening, you stop stress testing your own system. When you stop stress testing, you miss the flaw. Do Kwon missed the flaw. And $40 billion paid for it. Alex Mashinsky had the most legitimate background of all of them. He held patents. Real ones. He invented technology used in voice-over internet protocols. The man had actual accomplishments. And that made him more dangerous, not less. Because when a guy with real patents tells you your money is safe, you believe him. He'd earned credibility the hard way. Then he weaponized it. Sue Ju and Kyle Davies met at Phillips Academy, Andover. That's one of the most exclusive prep schools in America. Tuition is over $60,000 a year. They went to Columbia University together. They worked at Credit Suisse together. They launched Three Arrows Capital together. Everything about their stories screams elite credentials. And every credential made it easier to borrow money they'd never repay. Stefan Chuen is the outlier. No pedigree. No Stanford. No Wall Street. He was a 20-year-old college kid in Australia who figured out that if you use the right words, quantitative arbitrage strategy, market-neutral returns, rich people will hand you their money without asking questions. He raised $90 million. He was barely old enough to drink. Now here's the pattern. Every single one of these men had one thing in common. It wasn't intelligence, although they were all smart. It wasn't greed, although they were all greedy. It was isolation from consequences. They'd spent their entire lives in environments where being wrong had no real punishment. Stanford doesn't punish you for arrogance. Wall Street rewards it. Crypto worships it. By the time they launched their projects, they genuinely believed they were too smart to fail. And when their systems started cracking, they didn't fix the cracks. They covered them up. Because admitting failure wasn't in their operating system, it had never been required. That's what made them dangerous, not evil genius. Insulation from reality. And that insulation is exactly what let them build the lies you're about to hear. If you're watching this and you've ever invested in anything, stocks, crypto, real estate, anything, what comes next should genuinely scare you. Because the lies these men told weren't sophisticated. They were simple. Embarrassingly simple. And millions of smart people fell for them. Understanding how is the only way to make sure you don't. Stay with me. Chapter 3. The lies they sold. Do Kwon told the world he'd built a stablecoin that couldn't fail. UST. Pegged to $1. Always, he said the algorithm guaranteed it. Here's what the algorithm actually did. It maintained the peg through a circular relationship with another token called Luna. When UST dropped below $1, the system minted more Luna to absorb the pressure. When Luna's price dropped, it needed more minting to compensate. More minting meant more selling pressure. More selling pressure meant lower prices, which required more minting. Read that again. It's a death spiral written into the code. It wasn't a bug. It was the design. Multiple economists warned Do Kwon publicly. A researcher named Kevin Zhou mapped this exact failure scenario in 2021, a full year before the collapse. Do Kwon's response? He tweeted, "I don't debate the poor." $40 billion. Backed by an insult and an algorithm that any second-year economics student could have broken. Now Sam Bankman-Fried's lie was different. More traditional, more boring, and that's what made it work. FTX was a crypto exchange. Customers deposited money to trade. The money was supposed to stay in their accounts. It didn't. Sam moved $8 billion of customer funds into a separate company. He also controlled Alameda Research. That company used the money for risky trades, political donations, and real estate. A $30 million penthouse in the Bahamas. A $16.4 million property in his parents' names. The customers had no idea. Their account balances still showed the money. The numbers on the screen were fake. Not wrong. Fake. Sam programmed a backdoor into FTX's accounting system that allowed Alameda to withdraw funds without triggering any alerts. This wasn't a gray area. This wasn't aggressive finance. It was theft with extra software. And here's the part that should infuriate you. While this was happening, Sam was testifying before Congress. He was meeting with the SEC. He was on magazine covers. Forbes. Fortune. He was valued at $26 billion personally. Congress members were shaking his hand and asking for advice on crypto regulation. The Fox was advising the henhouse on security. Alex Mashinsky's lie was the simplest. He went on YouTube every week. Every single week. He did an Ask Mashinsky Anything live stream. Customers would ask, "Is my money safe?" He'd say yes. "Is Celsius in financial trouble?" He'd say absolutely not. "Should I be worried?" He'd say you're in the safest place in crypto. Meanwhile, behind the camera, Celsius was hemorrhaging money. They'd lost hundreds of millions in risky DeFi investments. They'd been hacked. They'd made bad bets. And while Mashinsky was telling customers everything was fine, he personally withdrew $10 million of his own Celsius tokens. He cashed out. Then he went back on camera and told everyone else to hold. That's not a business failure. That's fraud with a webcam. Three Arrows Capital, Sue Ju and Kyle Davies, didn't lie to retail investors. They lied to other funds. They borrowed billions from companies like Genesis, Voyager, and BlockFi. They claimed to have robust risk management. They claimed to have hedged positions. They hadn't. They took borrowed money and made massive, leveraged, one-directional bets on crypto going up. When it went down, they couldn't pay anyone back. $3.5 billion in debt, unpayable. When creditors came looking, Sue Ju and Kyle Davies got on a yacht, literally. They sailed away. Courts couldn't find them. Liquidators couldn't reach them. For weeks, two men who owed $3.5 billion were floating in the ocean, posting Instagram stories. Stefan Tin didn't even bother with a real strategy. His quantitative fund was pure fiction. He showed investors fabricated returns. He used new investor money to pay old investors. Classic Ponzi. The only difference between Stefan Tin and Bernie Madoff was the scale and the fact that Stefan was doing it from a dorm room while eating ramen. Here's the pattern across all five. None of these lies were complex. Circular token economics, moving customer money, saying everything is fine on camera, borrowing money you can't repay, fabricating returns. These aren't sophisticated scams. A teenager could understand each one in 5 minutes. So why did millions of people fall for them? Because the lies weren't sold with logic. They were sold with identity. Do Kwon sold rebellion against traditional finance. Sam sold effective altruism, the idea that he was getting rich to save the world. Mashinsky sold community and trust. Sue Ju sold elite credibility. Stefan sold youth and brilliance. People didn't invest in algorithms or platforms. They invested in stories. And stories don't need to be true to be convincing. Now, if this is making you rethink anything you've invested in, good. That means this video is doing its job. This channel exists to peel back the surface of financial disasters and show you the machinery underneath. If you want to keep learning from other people's catastrophic mistakes instead of making your own, you know what to do. Hit subscribe. I'll keep making these. Because what happened next, the collapse, happened faster than anyone thought possible. Chapter 4, The Collapse, May 7, 2022. Someone sold $285 million worth of UST on the open market. It might have been a coordinated attack. It might have been a large holder cashing out. To this day, nobody knows for certain who pulled the trigger. It doesn't matter. What matters is what happened next. UST depegged. It dropped to 99 cents, then 98. The algorithm kicked in. It started minting Luna to restore the peg. More Luna flooded the market. Luna's price dropped. The algorithm minted more. Luna dropped further. More minting, more selling. The death spiral had started. In 24 hours, UST was at 69 cents. Do Kwon tweeted, "Deploying more capital. Steady, lads." He moved $1.5 billion in Bitcoin reserves to defend the peg. It didn't work, not even close. The selling pressure was overwhelming. By May 10th, UST was at 30 cents. Luna, which had been trading at $80, was at $1. By May 12th, Luna was worth less than 1 cent. The token that had backed a $40 billion ecosystem was worth nothing. It took 5 days, 120 hours. $40 billion evaporated. And Do Kwon? He was still tweeting, still performing confidence. Even as people were losing everything in real time, in the replies to his tweets, begging for answers. Now, FTX collapsed differently. It wasn't a market mechanism. It was a leak. On November 2, 2022, a CoinDesk reporter named Ian Allison published an article revealing that Alameda Research's balance sheet was mostly composed of FTT tokens, tokens that FTX itself had created. In other words, Sam's hedge fund was backed by tokens Sam had invented. It was circular. The collateral was imaginary. Binance CEO Changpeng Zhao read that article. He announced Binance would sell its $500 million in FTT holdings. That triggered a bank run. FTX customers rushed to withdraw their money. $6 billion in withdrawal requests hit FTX in 72 hours. The money wasn't there. Sam had spent it. There was a $8 billion hole in FTX's balance sheet. Withdrawals froze. Customers couldn't access their funds. Panic spread. Within 1 week, FTX filed for bankruptcy. Sam Bankman-Fried, the man worth $26 billion, was worth zero. Less than zero. He was a defendant. Celsius froze withdrawals on June 12, 2022. No warning. Customers woke up and couldn't access their money. Mashinsky had been saying everything was fine, literally days before. His last Ask Mashinsky Anything stream was June 3rd. 9 days later, your money was locked. He knew. He absolutely knew. And he said nothing. Three Arrows Capital defaulted in June 2022. They simply stopped answering calls. Creditors sent emails. No response. Lawyers filed motions. No response. Suju and Kyle Davies disappeared. The British Virgin Islands court ordered their liquidation. The liquidators found almost nothing. The money was gone. $3.5 billion. Gone. And the founders were photographed weeks later at a resort in Bali. Stefan Quinn's collapse was quieter. The SEC caught him in 2021. His Ponzi scheme unraveled when he couldn't meet redemption requests. He tried to steal from his own second fund to cover the first. That's when his partner realized what was happening and went to the authorities. Stefan was arrested. He was 24. Here's what connects every collapse. Speed. Do Kwon, 5 days. Sam, 1 week. Mashinsky, overnight. Three Arrows, days. Stefan, hours once the SEC moved. These empires that took years to build collapsed in days or hours. Because they were never real. The foundations were hollow, the buildings were painted facades. One push, and they crumbled. And behind every collapse, behind every headline and every court filing, there were real human beings watching their life savings disappear in real time on their phone screens. Those people are next. Chapter 5, The Victims Nobody Talks About. His name was Hyung-Seok Lee. He was 32. He lived in Seoul. He'd invested his entire savings, roughly $800,000, into Terra Luna. When UST collapsed, he lost everything. On May 13, 2022, he jumped from an apartment building. He was one of at least 8 confirmed suicides linked to the Terra Luna crash in South Korea alone. 8 people dead, not from disease, not from accidents. From a tweet that said, "Steady lads." Do Kwon never acknowledged a single death, not one. In the United States, a retired school teacher named Patricia Daly put $180,000 into Celsius. That was her retirement. 30 years of teaching third graders. She'd heard Mashinsky on YouTube. He seemed trustworthy. He had patents. He did weekly live streams. She thought, this man is transparent. Why would someone who's hiding something go live every week? When Celsius froze withdrawals, Patricia was 61. She went back to work. She's substitute teaching now. She can't afford to retire. Her retirement fund is locked in a bankruptcy proceeding. She might get back 20 cents on the dollar. Might. A 26-year-old software developer in Austin named Marcus Chen put $40,000 into FTX. It was his first real savings after paying off student loans. He'd spent 2 years living frugally, saving every paycheck, eating cheap, skipping vacations. He chose FTX because Sam Bankman-Fried was on the cover of Forbes. Because Congress invited him to testify. Because every major media outlet treated Sam like the responsible adult in crypto. Marcus didn't gamble on a shitcoin. He trusted an institution that every authority figure told him was legitimate. His $40,000 is gone. The bankruptcy process might return a fraction. Years from now. Now multiply Marcus by millions. FTX had over 1 million creditors. Celsius had 1.7 million accounts. Terra Luna's collapse affected an estimated 2 million holders globally. These aren't numbers. These are people who checked their phones in the morning and saw a zero where their savings used to be. And here's what infuriates me most. The media covered these collapses as financial stories. Market events. They talked about contagion and liquidity crises and systemic risk. They used the language of weather, as if this was a natural disaster. It wasn't. It was crime. Specific people made specific decisions to steal money from other specific people. Calling it a market event is like calling a robbery a, quote, property transfer incident. The victims aren't footnotes. They're the whole story. Every dollar these founders stole came from a person with a name and a family and bills to pay. This channel exists because these stories deserve to be told in full, not as headlines, not as data points, as real accounts of what happens when powerful people abuse trust. If you believe these victims, stories matter. If you believe accountability matters, subscribe to this channel. Because I promise you, we will keep telling these stories when everyone else has moved on. Let's talk about accountability. Because some of these founders faced it, and some didn't. Chapter 6. Justice or something like it. Stefan Chinen was sentenced first. 7.5 years in federal prison. He was 24 years old when he was arrested. He'll be 31 when he's eligible for release. He pleaded guilty. He cooperated. He cried in court. The judge said his youth was not a mitigating factor. It was an aggravating one. Because he'd proven that even at 20, he was capable of deliberately stealing $90 million. Stefan is currently in a federal minimum security facility. He'll spend the rest of his 20s in prison. Of all 5 founders in this video, he faced consequences the fastest. Probably because he was the smallest. He didn't have a team of lawyers. He didn't have political connections. He didn't have a passport to Montenegro. Sam Bankman-Fried went to trial in October 2023. The prosecution's star witness was Caroline Ellison, his ex-girlfriend, who ran Alameda Research. She testified that Sam directed her to use FTX customer funds. She testified that Sam created the backdoor in the accounting system. She testified that he lied to investors, lied to customers, and lied to her. The trial lasted 1 month. The jury deliberated for 5 hours. 5 hours for a case involving $8 billion. That's how clear the evidence was. Sam was found guilty on all 7 counts. Fraud, conspiracy, money laundering. In March 2024, he was sentenced to 25 years in federal prison. He showed minimal remorse. His lawyers argued he was an idealist who made mistakes. The judge disagreed. 25 years. Sam Bankman-Fried, who was shaking hands with senators 18 months earlier, will be eligible for release around 2049. Alex Mashinsky was arrested in July 2023. He was charged with securities fraud, commodities fraud, and wire fraud. He pleaded guilty in December 2023. His sentencing is pending. Prosecutors are asking for years in prison. His defense team argues he genuinely believed Celsius was solvent. The customers he told to hold while he was selling, that's harder to explain away. Do Kwon was arrested in Montenegro in March 2023. He was carrying a fake Costa Rican passport. The man who told everyone to stay steady was fleeing with forged documents. Montenegro detained him. Both South Korea and the United States requested extradition. As of the latest updates, he was extradited to the U.S. in 2024 to face fraud charges. His trial hasn't concluded. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Do Kwon was free for 10 months after $40 billion evaporated, and at least 8 people died. 10 months of freedom. He was posting on Twitter while families were burying their dead. Su Zhu was arrested in Singapore in September 2023 while trying to leave the country. He was sentenced to 4 months in prison, not for fraud, but for contempt of court and failure to cooperate with liquidators. 4 months. For $3.5 billion in losses. Kyle Davies has never been arrested. As of right now, he appears to be free. And here's the part that should keep you up at night. Su Zhu, after serving his 4 months, co-founded a new crypto exchange called OPNX, a platform for trading claims from bankrupt crypto companies. He's literally profiting from the wreckage. The man who helped destroy Three Arrows Capital is now selling pieces of the rubble. That's not justice. That's a sequel. Let me ask you something. If a bank CEO stole $3.5 billion and got 4 months, would you accept that? If a CEO went on live video every week, telling customers their money was safe while withdrawing his own, would you accept a plea deal? If a man's algorithm killed 8 people and he ran with a fake passport, would 10 months of freedom before arrest feel like accountability? I'll leave those questions for the comments. I genuinely want to know what you think justice looks like here. Drop your answer below. And if you want to see how these stories continue to unfold, because they're not over, subscribe and hit the bell. These cases are still moving through courts right now. But first, let me tell you what this all means. Because the scariest part of this story isn't in the past, it's happening right now. Chapter 7. It's happening again. Here's what changed after $70 billion was stolen. Regulations tightened. The SEC sued more aggressively. Exchanges implemented proof of reserves. FTX's collapse directly led to stricter compliance requirements globally. The EU passed MiCA, the Markets in Crypto Assets Regulation. The US introduced multiple bills targeting crypto custody and transparency. Real improvements, meaningful ones. Some lives will be saved because of these changes. But here's what didn't change. The incentive structure is identical. Unregulated or loosely regulated markets still exist. Charismatic founders can still raise hundreds of millions on promises. Retail investors still have less information than insiders. And the punishment for stealing billions is still lighter than the punishment for robbing a gas station in most U.S. states. Su Zhu served 4 months for $3.5 billion. The average sentence for armed robbery in America is 10 years. Let that math sit for a minute. Right now, as you're watching this, there are projects raising money with the same playbook. Algorithmic promises nobody has stress-tested. Custody arrangements nobody has audited. YouTube personalities telling you your money is safe in systems they don't understand and can't explain. The next Do Kwon is already out there. He might have fewer followers right now. His project might look different. The token name will be new. But the structure? The circular economics, the charisma over substance, the dismissal of critics, the absence of audits, it's the same, it's always the same. Patricia Daly is still substitute teaching. She's 63 now. She told a local news outlet that she doesn't blame crypto. She blames herself for trusting someone she saw on YouTube. That quote breaks my heart. Because Patricia shouldn't blame herself. She did what every financial advisor tells you to do. She looked for transparency, track record, and credibility. Mashinsky had all three. The system that was supposed to protect her failed completely. Hyung-seok Lee's family has never spoken publicly. His story appeared in Korean media for 3 days. Then the news cycle moved on. He's a statistic now, one of at least 8 suicides. He deserves more than that. They all do. Marcus Chen eventually rebuilt some savings. He doesn't invest in crypto anymore. He told a Reddit thread that the experience taught him one lesson. If someone is on a magazine cover, they're selling something, not building something. Sam Bankman-Fried will be in prison until approximately 2049. He'll be 77 years old. His parents, both Stanford law professors, attended every day of his trial. His mother was photographed crying after the verdict. Whatever Sam became, they raised him. They'll live with that. Do Kwon is facing trial. If convicted in the U.S., he could serve decades. The man who tweeted, "Steady lads," while people were dying, might spend the rest of his productive life behind bars. Mashinsky awaits sentencing. The prosecutor's memo details every YouTube livestream where he lied. Every single one is time-stamped and quoted. His own words will determine his prison sentence. There's a poetic cruelty in that. Kyle Davies remains free. Somewhere. Nobody in this story represents the failure of the system more clearly. $3.5 billion in damage. 0 days in prison. So what's the lesson? It's not, don't invest in crypto. Crypto isn't inherently criminal any more than banks are inherently safe. The lesson is simpler. More universal. More uncomfortable. The lesson is, charisma is not competence. Credentials are not character. Transparency performed on camera is not the same as transparency enforced by auditors. And if someone tells you they've built a system that cannot fail, they're either lying or they don't understand their own system. Either way, run. The men in this video weren't geniuses. They were confident. There's a difference. And $70 billion, and at least 8 human lives, paid for the world to learn that difference. Now here's my ask. If this video made you think, if it made you angry or sad or more careful, share it with one person who needs to hear it. Not for me. For the next Patricia. For the next Marcus. For the next person who's about to trust a face on a screen with their life savings. Share this video. It might be the thing that stops them. And if you want more deep dives like this, real investigations into financial disasters, told with the depth and detail they deserve, subscribe to this channel right now. Hit the bell. I don't make clickbait. I make the content the news forgot to finish. One more thing. Somewhere right now, a founder is recording a YouTube video. He's smiling. He's confident. He's telling you your money is safe. He has credentials. He has charisma. He has a white paper full of words that sound smart. He is not Do Kwon. He is not Sam Bankman-Fried. He is not Alex Mashinsky. Or maybe he is. And you won't know the difference until it's too late. Unless you've watched this video. Then you might.